up on my screen. A talking heads can spit it now. But won't you tell me what it means? Oh yeah. I try to understand it, but yeah, I try not to lose. But can you really win when you must pick and choose?
That's some pretty good rock. And folks, that's the Sheepdogs. They won a big contest with Rolling Stone magazine. A reader-generated contest. They won the vote. But guess what? The Sheepdog's daddy is a viewer of The Source, and he joins me now live via Skype from Saskatoon. Professor Neil Currie, that's your team. That's your boy.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal.
Tell me a little bit about the Sheepdogs before we come back. I want to talk to you a minute, but give us a little bit of background. That was some serious rocking. Now, tell me how that whole Rolling Stone thing happened, and I want to get to talk with you about freedom and music. But tell me what happened and why it was meaningful for the Sheepdogs.
Well, it was the culmination of 6 years of largely unfruitful touring across Canada in a broken-down van, playing to crowds medium and small. The boys were all hugely in debt and hadn't had a great deal of recognition, but they did finally manage to connect with somebody sort of at the middle level of the music industry who forwarded a demo, unbeknownst to them, to this competition. And to their amazement, they became one of 16 bands selected from across North America for this contest to be the first unsigned band to appear on the cover of the Rolling Stone. They were the only Canadian band, and they were against 15 bands from Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, New Orleans, etc.
And your son Ewan's the lead singer, am I right?
Yes, he is, and he writes all their songs, too.
And who are the other boys?
Leah Hansen plays guitar, Sam Corbett's on drums, and Ryan Gullen is the bass player.
And look at that there, right on the cover of the Rolling Stone. And they're an unsigned band going from being unsigned to being on the most important music magazine in North America. That is pretty awesome. Now, I want to come back to you because you sent me a pretty awesome letter yourself a few weeks ago, and I'm just going to quote you had some very, very generous things to say about the show and Sun News Network. I really appreciate that. But you also talked about freedom and music, and I hope you don't mind. I'm going to quote a couple sentences from your letter. Can we see those on the screen right now? You said pop music, especially merit-free punk music, should not be subsidized by the government. And even though my son is lead singer of the Sheepdogs, who are in the final to appear on the cover of the Rolling Stone. So, you're a musician yourself. You've got a doctorate in music. You're a composer. You've even been nominated for a Juno. Your son is in this hot new band, yet you believe that artists should not be government artists. Is it more an ideological thing, or do you think that artists should just simply be free from the concessions that one has to make when looking for handouts from the government? Why do you think government and art doesn't mix?
Well, I think it's a combination of an ideology, but one that has been formed through my own practical experience of many, many years of freelancing. I'm also a jazz pianist. I play pop music as well as being a composer who has been commissioned by the CBC and by the Australia Council when I lived in Australia, and by the Canada Council here in Canada. But my belief is that funding for the arts should be distributed very sparingly, and perhaps at the grassroots level to maybe throw a travel grant or something occasionally to a group that's really just forming. But I believe that it's probably better for art if at the upper levels there are not massive grants allocated to senior artists. I think by that time they should have been able to find some kind of support other than from the government. I think that, this is a bit more ethereal, but I think that part of the reason the Sheepdogs were able to project such soul and such edge in their performance that eventually landed them the cover of the Rolling Stone was 6 years of hard-scrabble touring, literally on the road of hard knocks. Going through that experience was a real, it was a real grind, but it gave them tremendous heart and soul.
I think you're right. I always like to remind people that the root of the word passion, believe it or not, is from the Latin word for torture. And I think people who go through tough things, that's where a lot of creativity and passion comes from. And to me, that's so opposite from being a bureaucratic, corporate, grant-applying, commercial artist. I mean, I believe in commercial artists. I believe in mass marketing music to people who want to hear it. But I think that the true artistic passion comes from difficulty. I don't think good things should come too easily. Is that what you're saying, or am I just romancing what you're saying a little too much?
That's essentially what I'm saying. An allied point is that the whole matter of being able to connect with the public, I mean, it's more front and center in the popular music world, but in my world, the classical music world, and in other so-called serious arts, the line becomes rather blurred, and the connection with any sort of wide populace is generally not valued. And this is just a personal thing, but I think that at that stage, it should probably fall upon some individual benefactor who happens to get the art. If the art is particularly esoteric or requires a high level of expertise technically or whatever, it should probably fall upon individual benefactors to provide massive grants if they get it, if they really value the art that highly. But if the art does not have any substantial appeal, then it probably is not incumbent on government to spend the money of the people on it.
Yeah. You know what? I think that historically, before the era of big government, we had those patrons. I mean, the Renaissance is, to me, the high watermark of business people taking it as a moral responsibility, not as a legal responsibility, but as a moral responsibility to contribute to art. Neil Currie, Doctor of Music and the proud papa of Ewan Currie, thank you very much for joining us live via Skype from Saskatoon today.
My pleasure, Ezra.
Right on, and keep in touch and keep watching The Source.